إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So I greet my young brothers with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Inshallah ta'ala, this will not be long. Just some short advice for myself and for my brothers. And the reason for this advice brings to mind a statement from Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. When he made a very important statement, he said that some of the people believe that if a person was born in Islam, he automatically is going to be better than a person who had to accept Islam. And he said this is not always the case, because sometimes those people who were born in Islam, they have one issue, and that is they have never experienced evil, so they don't know how evil it is. And they may see something evil and think that it's good, and see something good and think that it's evil. He said, so you can't determine if a person is better if he was born a Muslim or if he became a Muslim. Is based upon the taqwa of Allah Ta'ala, who fears Allah and who has a good ending. So I'm going to give you just about 4 advices, real short advice, right? Very important. The first advice for myself and for you is to stay Muslim. What does Allah Ta'ala say? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. O you who believe, fear Allah as he should be feared, and do not die except as Muslims. Stay a Muslim. And what does this mean? It means that as Muslims, we have a firm belief that Allah Ta'ala is our Lord. Right? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise belong to Allah, the Lord of the Alameen. But what does the Alameen mean? Does anyone know what does that mean? All the worlds, everything. So Allah is the Lord of the Muslims. He's the Lord of the non-Muslims. Allah is the Lord of your favorite athlete. If you have a favorite entertainer, Allah is his Lord also. Allah Ta'ala is the Lord of everything. So what does it mean that Allah Ta'ala is our Lord? Does anyone know? Ahsant. Ahsant. So we know that Allah Ta'ala is the creator of everything. Allahu khaliqu kulli shay. Allah is the creator of everything. Likewise, it means that he is the provider of everything. So Allah Ta'ala created everyone that you see and everyone that you don't see. And he is the provider for everyone. And in this is that even the non-Muslims, those people you see with the fancy cars and the fancy homes, who provided that for them? Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala says, Inna Qarun kana min qawmi Musa. Verily Qarun, he was from the family of Musa. And Qarun is one of the richest people in the history of mankind. He had so much money. You want to know how much money he had? It took a team of strong men with animals to carry the keys to his wealth. And Allah Ta'ala provided that for him. But where did he end up? He ended up in the hellfire because he didn't believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. Being the Lord also means that Allah Ta'ala controls all the affairs of the universe. يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ. He controls the affairs from the heavens to the earth. Allah Ta'ala is in control of everything. So being the Lord means what? The creator, the provider, and the controller of everything. Likewise, Allah Ta'ala has nothing like him. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing similar to him whatsoever. So Allah Ta'ala is not a man. He's not an angel. He's not a spirit. He's Allah. Okay? So because he's our Lord and we don't have any Lord besides him, and because there is no one similar to him whatsoever, he is the only one who deserves what? To be worshipped. He is the only one who deserves that he is worshipped. Okay? Now, Shaykh al-Uthaymeen mentioned something. He mentions the 4 greatest favors that anyone has received. Now, I want you to raise your hand each time I mention a favor, if you received that or not. If you didn't receive it yet, then you can keep your hand down. The 4 greatest things that anyone in the world has. Number 1, Islam. Right? All right. Good. Number 2, sanity, your intellect. Okay, I'll still a couple more hands here now. Your intellect, right? Number 3, safety and security. Number 4, provision. So we have all 4. We have the top 4 greatest favors in the universe. Why is anyone not overjoyed about that? You should be overjoyed about that. The top 4 things that you could possibly get, you got all 4 of them. So if you didn't get number 10, it's okay. You got the top 4. And you have to understand that Islam is a ni'mah. As the messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Inna Allah azza wa jal yu'ti dunya man yuhib wa man la yuhib. Wa la yu'ti deen illa man ahab. فَمَنْ أَعْطَاهُ اللَّهُ الدِّينَ فَقَدْ أَحَبَّ. He said that Allah gives this worldly life to those he loves and those he does not love. But he only gives the religion of Islam to those he loves. So if Allah has given you this religion, then surely he loves you. What's better than that? That Allah Ta'ala has given you the greatest favor that you could possibly get. You couldn't have gotten anything better than Islam. The greatest thing you could have possibly gotten, Allah Ta'ala gave it to you. Likewise, Islam is the religion of all the prophets and messengers. It's the religion that Allah loves. It's the religion that brings a solution to every problem in the world. And it's the only religion that Allah Ta'ala will accept. And Islam is the key to where, Ya Akhwan? Al-Jannah. Paradise, right? So you should feel special about this. You should feel special. And you should hold on to it with everything that you have. Now, the second advice is to be kind to your parents and honor your parents, right? Allah Ta'ala says, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Worship Allah and do not associate any partners with him. And to your parents, be kind. And he said, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And your Lord has decreed that you worship none but him, and to your parents, you are kind. Now, if your parents tell you to do something, you can't even say what to them? Oof. Oof is the smallest thing. And some of the ulama, they mentioned that in this verse, he said that if your parents reach old age, don't say to them, oof, because if they're old, they can't hear that good. You know, we get old, we get a little gray in your beard, your hearing start to go. But even if your parents can't hear you say oof, you can't even say it. Some of the great people of the past, if their mother told them to do something and they didn't hear what she said, they say, okay, mom, I'm going to do it. And then they ask the brother, what did she say? Because they didn't want to ask to the mother, what you say? They consider that to be disrespectful. You can't even roll your eyes at your mother. You can't even smack your teeth at your mother. Disrespectful. Or your father. You have to honor your parents, Ikhwan. And from the honoring of your parents is that, and my daughters, they have to deal with this, when your father sits you down and tells you that same story for the 50th time, you listen to it like it's the first time and smile. Oh, mashallah. And you think, okay, I heard this last night. You smile. Also, Sheikh Muhammad Ghalib, he says that if your parents have a smell that's not pleasant, you know, some of your fathers, they probably wear that oud cologne. Oud is, you know, doesn't smell that good to me. But if your parents wear some cologne and have a smell that's not pleasant, you can't even say, Dad, that don't smell good. It's mashallah. Disrespectful, right? I'm going to mention to you a story. And at the end of the story, you're going to see a tremendous point from this, right? There was a man named Miqdad. He said that He was a man. One of the companions said, we sat with Miqdad one day, and a man passed by. Miqdad was from the companions, the Sahaba, right? And so a man passed by them who was not from the Sahaba. What's the name of the people that came after the Sahaba? Tabi'een. He was from the Tabi'een. And he saw Miqdad and he said, glad tidings for those eyes. I wish I could have only seen what your eyes saw. What was he talking about? The prophet. He said, I wish I could have seen the prophet like you saw the prophet. And the people who were sitting with Miqdad, they said, oh, we thought he only said something good. Maybe we've said that before. I wish I could have been a Sahaba. If only I could have been a Sahaba. Miqdad didn't like that. Miqdad said, what is wrong with some people that they wish for something that Allah shielded them from? He said, because how many people saw the Prophet ﷺ and they're going to be thrown in their noses on the hellfire. Why? Because they didn't believe in him. Or maybe they was living during that time and they couldn't take it. But this is the point of the narration that I want you to get, right? He said, why don't you praise Allah? Because he is the only Lord that you have ever known, right? You young brothers, you have never worshiped anyone except for Allah Azza wa Jal, right? He said, why don't you praise Allah? Because he is the only Lord that you have ever known, and you believed in the Prophet when he came to you. He said, and this is sufficient for you. He said, when the Prophet ﷺ was sent to us, we had the most severe condition. He said, because we knew that when the truth came to us and we had to watch our mothers and children and brothers not believe, we knew they were going to go to the hellfire. And we can never be happy knowing our loved ones are going to the hellfire. You young brothers, most of you come from Muslim families, right? So you can benefit your parents in this life, and if your parents were to die, what can you do for your parents? You pray for them. You make dua for them, right? For us who were raised as Christians in the church and our mothers died in the church, we couldn't even go to the funeral. You guys have Muslim parents. You can pray for your parents. You can make hajj for your parents. If all of you die upon Islam, do you know where you're going to have a reunion at? Paradise. The families will be reunited. You get a chance to be with your mother. As the scholars have mentioned, the mothers, the fathers, your cousins, your brothers and sisters, all you Muslims be in paradise together. Most of our families are non-Muslim. We can't even go to the funeral prayer. Can't pray for your mother, can't do anything. You don't think that's painful to know that? You guys have Muslim parents. It's a ni'mah from Allah Azza wa Jal. The third advice is whatever you do, don't do drugs. And what's a drug? It has been defined by the best of mankind, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Kullu muskarin khamr, wa kullu muskarin haram." Everything that makes you intoxicated is a drug, and every drug is haram. Whether they call it alcohol, whether they call it weed, or some of these fancy names I never heard of before, doobies and I don't know. I'm old. Some of this stuff, the fancy names, you kids know. I don't want anybody to say anything and indict yourself, because we assume that nobody does drugs here. It's just a reminder for the believer, right? But these fancy names that maybe you heard from some classmates, all of it is haram. Anything that intoxicates you, right? And there are 10 curses associated with those who do drugs. 10. And likewise, the person who does drugs, your prayer is not accepted for how long? 40 days, and you still have to pray. 40 days. Likewise, the punishment for doing drugs comes in this life too. There are over 2.5 million deaths a year from drugs. Right? And some people say, well, I'm just going to smoke a cigarette. Don't you know that they lace cigarettes with heroin? And that causes you brain damage. You can take one puff of a cigarette and get brain damage. And someone has to change your diaper for the rest of your life for a cigarette. You understand that? Drugs, they'll give you brain damage, they'll give you disease, they have harms that you don't even know about. They make a lot of the drugs today in China. Everything's made in China. Synthetic, fake drugs. Selling them to our youth. So don't do drugs. Another thing they cause is schizophrenia. They'll make you go insane. Right? So we're not going to do drugs, right? Don't be pushed by peer pressure. Whatever the non-Muslim does, you have to do. Do you know why people do drugs? Because they want to escape from reality. If you were already happy, you wouldn't need to get high. They're miserable, so they have to get high to escape reality. The last advice is don't have a girlfriend. Don't get a girlfriend. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا, and don't come close to fornication. Don't get a girlfriend. You have all you young Muslim brothers here. And there are a lot of young Muslim women. Why don't you marry a young Muslim woman, girl? Right? Dating is something that's brand new. My parents got married in the 50s. My dad told me the first time he was alone with my mother is when he married her. First time. Dating is something that's new. Right? And what you should, and I'm going to tell you young people something that you probably don't realize. This goes for the man, for the young men and the young women. The best thing that you have is your honor. If you honor yourself, then your value goes up. Do you know what's worth more, a diamond or a rock? Do you know why a diamond is worth more than a rock? Because everybody can't get a diamond. You can get a rock outside. I like rocks now. Rocks are useful. But when I'm done playing with it, I throw it away. Don't be a rock. Be a diamond. If a person knows that they can't fornicate with you, your value goes up. If you're cheap and don't value yourself, nobody's going to value you. You can believe in that. No one's going to value you. Once they get what they want from you, they're going to throw you away like that rock. Right? So why not just get married and have some honor? And also, and people think that they're going to outsmart your Lord Azza wa Jalla. The punishment for zina doesn't only come in the next life. It comes in this life. Disease. Things like syphilis that will make you go blind. Fornicate one time and go blind. Who wants to do that? There are things that you kids never heard of. You were raised in Islam, ya Akhwan. Most of us, when we became Muslim, we stopped doing the things that kids want to do before we took Shahada. Who are still not Muslim, but the stuff gets old. Drugs, all this stuff, that stuff became old before we took Shahada. It's the same old thing. But even back then when I was growing up, a person could be evil and have some honor. Now, evil people don't have any honor. Persons on the internet showing they're evil. Not embarrassed that their grandmother's going to see that. That's ajib. So do it the right way, ya Akhwan. Keep your honor. Keep your honor, because if you appreciate the ni'mah from Allah Ta'ala, He will increase it. But if you don't think that He won't replace you. Right? Nah. That's just some advice that I want to give the youth. If you have any basic, simple questions, inshallah ta'ala, we can give them to Abu Muhammad. Anybody have anything? The advice about music. Simple. Is music halal or haram? That's the advice. It's haram. And music builds hypocrisy in the heart. Also, the ulama, they say that music makes a person change over. Meaning that a young man that wanted to marry a woman, listen to music, and he may grow up and not want to marry a woman anymore, if you know what I mean. It changes the mindset. And it's haram. Simple as that. If it's halal, But it's haram, ya akhwan. Dancing. And you find that the scholars, they mention that in Islam, the woman is allowed to dance when? And the woman can't dance in front of other women like that, right? But the woman can beat the duff for the Eid, right? So because the woman is restricted to beating the duff during the Eid, it's always haram for the man. And if a man does it, he's acting like a woman. That stuff is not for men. Haram. No. Anything else? Absolutely. Ahsan, jazakallahu khairan. Music is the sawt of shaitan, the voice of shaitan, to distract you from listening to the Quran, right? And when people, and this is the thing that the Sheikh was mentioning the other day, right? Happiness. Happiness is part of the alameen, meaning who created happiness? Allah created. Happiness is a creation of Allah Ta'ala. So if you want happiness, go to the one who created it. Some people get sad and they turn the music on. They get sad and so they seek comfort in shaitan. You think shaitan is going to comfort you? You know, as the scholars mentioned about when a person recites an ayat for sajda, you know, you recite the Quran and you make the sajda, right? That Iblis runs off crying and upset. And he says, man was ordered to make sujood and he did so. So for him it's paradise. I was ordered to do so and I didn't, so for me it's the hellfire. But Qurtubi explains, Qurtubi, he says that Iblis is not crying because he wants to make tawbah. He's not crying because he's upset about his sin. He's crying because he hates you so much, he don't want you to go to paradise even if he ain't going. Iblis hates you. He hates you. Anything he can do to get you to hellfire, he's going to do it. Keep that in mind, ya akhwan. If you think about this right here, right? If everyone in your family were to say, we're going to a fun park today, everyone but you got to stay in the room. We're going to eat pizza, ice cream, Skittles. You stay in the room. Who would be happy with that? Anybody? So what if all your family go to paradise and you go to hellfire? Do you think anyone in paradise is going to be sad about someone in hellfire? They're going to forget about everyone. Don't be the odd man out, right? Grow up to be a respectable Muslim that helps out your community. Nah. Anything else? The question is that there are some Muslims who, I guess, are wearing thobes and rapping and dancing in thobes. So the youth are confused. Why are you confused? What's confusing about that? We have in the Rasulullah uswatun hasana. We have in the Messenger of Allah an excellent example. He didn't say you have an excellent example in Mr. Rapper. Who's your example, ya akhwan? Who's your example? The Prophet ﷺ. So just because you see a guy who says he's a Muslim do it, it doesn't mean anything. There are Muslims who commit sin. It doesn't make it right. Your example is from the Prophet and the Sahaba. Just because a Muslim does it, it doesn't make it right. You know it's haram, so that Muslim, because he does it, he can't make it halal. Music is haram. It doesn't matter if a rapper does it and he says he's a Muslim. Alhamdulillah, you make dua that Allah guides him. But you don't say, well, he's doing it, therefore I'm going to do it. Doesn't make it halal. No. Imitating the kuffar. This is a very important question. Something that Sheikh Uthaymeen mentioned, and this solves the whole thing. Those people who you imitate, you're going to be raised up to life with them. So anyone who you love, ask yourself, do you want to be raised up to life with him? Simple. You like Tupac, Snoop, may Allah guide Snoop. We can make dua for him, right? He's still alive. Ask yourself, would I like to be raised to life with this man? And if no, then you may not want to imitate them. Because it's ihshuru azwaj. They're going to be said, gather the pairs. meaning everyone who was similar. People who had similar action in this life are going to be gathered together. All the music lovers, all the dancers, all the drug heads going to be gathered on Yom Kippur. You want to be raised up standing beside Abu Bakr or standing beside Mr. Rapper dude? That's a simple question, right? Simple question. Most of these rappers don't want to be themselves, and you want to be them. They don't want to be themselves. People are miserable. We know some of these people personally. They look up to Muslims, and that's the amazing thing. When you meet these people, they look up to Muslims. Wallahi, they look up to Muslims until you look up to them. They look up to Muslims. They say, you're a Muslim. They look up to that. But when you want to be them, they lose respect for you. That's a fact. Nah. Okay, man, I got. Yeah, I actually heard my ears getting bad, but my eyes are mouth read. But exactly okay. There's a narration that mentions for the one who listens to music and dies without Tawbah that he'll have molten lead poured in his ears. Molten lead poured in his ears. Now, one of the Salaf, his name is Ahnaf, what he would do if his mind would try to entice him to commit a sin, he would go to a lamp and put his hand close to the fire and say, remember the fire, remember the fire. So think about it, right? If you took some, even cold water, and poured it in your ears, you're going to be screaming. Try it. Well, don't try it, but you're going to be screaming. So imagine molten lead in your ears. Not worth it. And keep in mind, Yaquan, once you reach the age of puberty, then the pen is writing on you, right? So it's not like, I'm just a kid. No, once you hit puberty, then the pen is writing. That's another thing, right? You kids, right? May Allah bless you all. We love our children. You have a tremendous advantage, right? Some of you guys are beneath the age of puberty, right? So that means that you're getting rewarded with no sin. SubhanAllah. Right? You just pray Isha. That's in your book of good deeds, right? But you're too young to get sin. So you get a big head start over us old people who became Muslim and the pen was already writing on us. That's a ni'mah from Allah Azza wa Jalla. Take advantage of it. Nah. Yep. Some Muslims do drugs, and some Muslims go into the hellfire. That's the reality. And that's a very good question, my brother, Zakir. But we don't judge Islam by what the Muslims do. We judge Islam by what the Quran and the Sunnah says, right? Muslims are not perfect, but Islam is perfect, right? Some Muslims have sin. And the thing about that is that there are some people who they did drugs before they were Muslims. And drugs are very, very addictive. You can do a drug one time and never be able to quit. That's why it's important that you never start. You take one drug and then you may never get off that drug. Ever in your whole life. You may think it's cool now, but you'll never get off that drug. Another thing about the friends, when I was in Kuwait, and this is not a praise, it's just a ni'mah from Allah Ta'ala. I used to work with almost everyone I worked with were non-Muslims. But to show what a friend and a non-friend would do, these non-Muslims, they did everything other non-Muslims do. But when I was around, they wouldn't even say one curse word around me. That's respect. If your non-Muslim friends are trying to get you to do evil, they're not your friends. Believe that. We have friends and they won't even say a curse word around us. You Muslim. I walk down the street in downtown Durham and I walk by with a thobe on and non-Muslim, they put the cigarette out. Sorry, sir. Thugs. Thugging. Oh, sorry, sir. I apologize. That's respect. If your non-Muslim friends are trying to get you to do evil, they're not your friends. They're not your friends. Nah. Get the kid for us. Why do we have to do Ramadan? That's a very good question. Jazakallahu khair. This is a command. First of all, it's a command from Allah Azza wa Jal that He commanded us to fast the month of Ramadan. All right? So this is why we do it, because Allah Ta'ala told us to do it. But it brings about some other wisdoms that have been explained to us, such as us getting a purification. Because this is what it does, right? You are told to stay away from food and drink during the daylight hours, right? Now, if you were to sneak inside the closet and drink some water, who would know that? Allah, but no one else. So it trains you to always not do a sin because Allah is watching you. So now when you're not fasting, you're not going to listen to music, not because your mother may walk in, but because Allah is watching you. The same one that kept you from drinking water when you were fasting is the same one that keeps you from sinning when you're not fasting. This is from the wisdom of Ramadan. That it trains the soul to always be aware that Allah Ta'ala is always watching you. And then it gives you some sympathy also for the poor. You know, there are people, millions of people, over 2 million people in the world that eat insects for dinner. You know why? That's all they have. Did anyone have to eat an insect for dinner today? So you're blessed. So it makes you empathize and have sympathy for poor people that don't have food all the time. Also, that's from the other wisdoms. Nah. Irfa Sotik? Nah. When the adhan is recited, also the Iqamah, also the Quran, also any dhikr. Whenever you remember Allah Ta'ala, the shaitan runs away. And this is another benefit. When a person gets a whisper to sin, he remembers Allah Ta'ala and the shaitan runs away. Nah. Jazakallah khairan. The studies, how much time do you think they say the children or the young people spend on social media a day? What do you think? How long do you think? Huh? A few hours. Now, what's a few? Define that. 5? Almost. 6 hours a day. 6 hours a day. Now, keep in mind, this is another benefit, right? Each prayer takes about 6 minutes, maybe. 5 times 6. Who's good at math? What's that? 30, right? You spend about half an hour a day praying. Is that too much? 6 hours on social media. And we don't have half an hour to pray. Social media is very dangerous, right? Because back in my day, no old jokes, young brothers, we didn't have cell phones. We just had the house phone inside the house. You know, the kind with the big rotary thing, right? And the house phone was in the middle of the house. So if anyone called, you talk in front of everybody. Sheikh Fawzan mentioned now with the cell phone, a person can get on the internet and run in the bathroom and try to hide from everyone. And nothing will stop you from doing evil except for fear of Allah Ta'ala. So that social media is very dangerous. People get on social media and spill their whole life, telling all the business, no shame. People put pictures, don't put your picture on social media. The Mufti, Sheikh Abdul Aziz Ali Sheikh, he mentioned that a young woman who was married, she got on social media, on Facebook, and it destroyed her whole marriage. Because she met a man on Facebook, he began to talk her against her husband. She left her husband for the man, and then the man said to, and then when she left her husband, she said, "Are you going to marry me?" He said, "I'm not marrying nobody like you. If you left him, what do you think you're going to do to me?" Left her high and dry. Social media is dangerous. What do they have? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. SubhanAllah, man. What's that? Okay, I ain't heard about that. WhatsApp. SubhanAllah. YouTube. And what's the benefit? That's one too. People get up there and spend hours watching prank videos. Stupid stuff. What's the benefit of that? That's going to get you across that bridge, and people put their pictures and expose themselves. No honor, no shame. Beware of that social media. And the parents, go through your children's phone. Sorry, kids. Parents, if your kids have a phone, go through their phone. Check and see what's on their phone. Now, if that makes you nervous and if someone is about to try to erase some stuff right now, right? Allah Ta'ala already knew what's in your phone already. So if you're not afraid of Allah Ta'ala, then that's a problem. But the parents should always go through their children's phone and go through their email and make sure they're not meeting with anyone wrong. Do you understand? Think about this right. Do you think that a noble person who's a respectable person is actually going to be on the internet looking to meet someone? These people on the internet are not who they say they are. You think you're talking to a 16-year-old girl? It's a 50-year-old man. That's a reality, brothers. That's a reality. Leave that stuff alone. Be dignified. Be dignified. Save your honor, Yaquan. Ahsan. Reciting Ayatul Kursi before you go to bed, Allah Ta'ala will send down a hafiz, an angel to protect you until the morning time. Nah. The balance between having goals in this life and the next life. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنًا. Oh, our Lord, give us good in this life and good in the next life and save us from the fire. So we don't run away from good in this life. Do you know a lot of the inventions that you use today, like the eyeglasses, Muslims invented that. The airplane, I'm from North Carolina, we say that the Wright brothers invented airplanes. The Muslims invented that before that. Mathematics, algebra, Muslims. As Imam Shafi'i, he said that the Muslims, he said that he is saddened how the non-Muslims took medicine away from the Muslims. The Muslims were the leaders in medicine. So we have in the dunya. But as one of the Salaf said, work for the dunya based upon how long you're going to be here. And work for the next life based upon how long you're going to be there. That's how you make that balance for that. No. If you listen to what now?
Is that haram if you play a song but it doesn't have music?
There's songs without music, huh? I'm not familiar with that, but that's a very good question because there is something like that they have nasheed, right? Now Sheikh Fawzan says there is no such thing as an Islamic nasheed. It doesn't exist. But what the Muslims would do back in the day when they would be working in the digging holes or something, they would recite poetry. So poetry is okay. As one of the Salaf, they asked him about poetry. Matter of fact, they asked a question to Sheikh Fawzan about poetry. And he said that poetry is like speech. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. So poetry is okay. But as far as songs without music, I don't know about that. Pictures. Jazakallah khairan. Pictures are only permissible if it is a necessity, right? Now, keep in mind, these sins doesn't mean that a person is not a Muslim anymore, but just things that you don't want to do. Pictures should only be taken for your driver's license, passport, things which are a necessity. But you should not just take pictures just because you want to have a memory. Right? As the Mufti, Sheikh Abdul Aziz Ali Sheikh, he said, pictures are from the reasons that the angels would not enter your home. And if the angel is not in your home, who's in your home? Shaitan, right? So pictures should only be taken out of necessity, not for pleasure or keepsake. Yeah, you can make dua for any Muslim. You can make dua for any Muslim, all right? Non-Muslims, you can make dua. That's a very good question. It has some detail, right? In general, the dua for the non-Muslim is for them to be guided, right? But the Mufti, he said you can even make dua for them to be healed. If there's a non-Muslim that's sick, you can make dua for them to be healed. With the intention that they be healed, they become Muslim. So this is also something which the scholars say is allowed. Nah. The chain that has the name of Allah. What's the ruling? What's the benefit? It's a trend. You wear it in the bathroom. There's no benefit. Did the Prophet ﷺ have a chain like that? Did they have the ability to make chains like that back in the day? They did. They could make a chain back in the day, but they didn't. There's no benefit to that. About the step parents, the scholars say that you should thank those people who do good to you. If a person does good to you, then you should thank that person. So if you have a stepmother, and she may not be your biological mother, but she's inside the home, she's cooking for you, she's cleaning, she's taking care of you, you should be good to her. Likewise, you have a stepfather who's not your biological father, but he's out there working, bringing in money for the home, you should be good to him. Do you know that Ibn Umar, radiallahu anhu, he saw a desert man who was walking in the desert with nothing over his head. The desert's pretty hot, right? So he got off of his riding animal and gave it to the man and gave him his turban. And they said, Ibn Umar, why'd you do that? This man, like, who is he? He said, my father was friends with his father. So it's from the honoring of your parents is to honor those who your parents love. So your parents love your step-parents. So you have to honor them also. Very important. Okay, that's 1 second. Social media, anything you do 6 hours a day, that's an addiction. Social media is addictive, right? Very good question. If you ask yourself, most people on social media, what are you doing? Are you getting paid from that? Nothing. You're not remembering Allah Ta'ala, nor are you getting paid. You're watching a prank video. And some of these prank videos make fun of Islam. Some of these videos make fun of Islam, which is kufr. What's the benefit to that, Yahmakullah? As for mentioning Allah's name in the bathroom, the scholars, they differ about that. Ask Imam Khalifa. Exactly. Okay. The haircut for the Muslim, right? The hair is best if it's even. It's best, once again, if a person has a frohawk or something like that, it doesn't take him outside of Islam, right? But it's more befitting for the person to have a hair that's even and a hairstyle that does not imitate the disbelievers. This is more befitting for the Muslim, that he gets a haircut that does not imitate the disbelievers. Now, okay, we're going to take maybe another 2 questions, and then that's going to be... but if you have more questions, my brother Abu Muhammad will be more than happy to take them, inshallah ta'ala. All right? The advice for the children whose parents are going through marital problems. You know, Sheikh Uthaymeen, he mentions that the best thing that a child can do for the parent is what? Make dua for them. Don't ever underestimate the power of dua. He said that a person could make hajj on behalf of their parent. They could give sadaqah on behalf of their parent. He said, but the best thing is to make dua. You make dua for your parent, but it's not really for the kid to get involved in the issues of the parents, but just make dua for the parent. And if the kid is old enough to give a general reminder to the parent or pass them a tape or a CD or a lecture that the parent could be reminded by, this is something good. But the kid doesn't want to involve himself in these issues, make dua. No one can do what Allah Azza wa Jalla can do. Allahumma alif bayna qulubahum. Oh Allah, unite their hearts. Make dua. I've never made that dua except that it happened before the end of the day. Oh Allah, unite the hearts. Make that dua for Allah Ta'ala to unite the hearts. One more from somebody that didn't have a question already. You got a question already, young brother? That was my question. I was meant to ask Sheikh Abdul Rahman Umaysan that question, but he left where I got a chance to. So I don't know. But you don't have to adopt someone. You're talking about adopting a baby, right? Yeah, okay, that's a different question. If you have a child, you're going to raise that child Muslim. So if a Muslim adopts a non-Muslim child, the child is on the religion of their parents. So, of course, you're not going to raise that child Christian. You're going to raise that child a Muslim. Absolutely. Now, one more, somebody who didn't have a question. Young brother right here. One more question. Man, I don't know, Akhi. Well, I don't. Allah knows best. That's a good question, but ask my brother Ustad Khalifa. One more person who didn't have a question already. Brother in the blue jacket, you have a question already? No, that's Muhammad. No. Naam, and you find this in the tafsir about it. There also being, as for all the benefits, I don't know. But I know one is for also, it has a similar benefit of keeping the shaitan out of the home. That it keeps the shaitan out of the home. Naam. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam wa'a'lam. Inshallah, may Allah bless all you brothers, inshallah ta'ala. We'll see you again tomorrow. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabina Muhammad.